absolute legends of chess. 1966 Chess Olympiad in Havana, Cuba, and Bobby Fischer, of course, the world chess champion from 1972, already chess genius. That goes without saying. And at that point in time, there was a young chess player, I think the first Romanian grandmaster, on his original pronunciation name, Florin Gheorghiu. I know that because I myself am a native speaker of Romanian, so that's how you pronounce it. At that time, he was 22 years old. Also, he was a professor at University of Bucharest in foreign languages. He speaks like 5 languages: English, French, Spanish, German, Russian. So a great intellectual in its own right. So and also a chess legend. He managed to beat the only game that Bobby Fischer lost in 1966 Chess Olympiad in Cuba, Havana. And it's the Nimzo Indian system with white, which we're going to look at it together, guys. And shall we just start? D4, played by Florin Gheorghiu. Knight f6, c4. Bobby Fischer's black, white is Florin Gheorghiu. Knight c3, bishop b4. Yeah, Nimzo Indian is here. And f3 is one of those things, f3 here, that wants to go for e4, grabbing space. And it's just an awesome opening here for white. I love the f3, and well, of course, I'm not the only one. Also, I've looked into a book written by Yuri Yakovich, I think a famous Russian grandmaster who had dedicated a study to this particular variation with f3 Nimzo Indian. D5, and also the author that had been mentioned, Yuri Yakovich, considers that moves like b6 or d6, it's a perfect encouragement for e4 space grabbing in the center here with white. So these are not very optimistic ways to tackle the system with f3 Nimzo Indian. So he recommends d5, which you have to put a stop to the e4, which will be played later on. a3, trying to clarify the bishop once and for all. Yeah, this is an absolute pain. I don't even want to mention going back on f8. It goes against all the chess tenets, and there's no point. We're going to be discussing in the live streams if you want to, but this is an absolute pain. You have to take on c3, b takes c3, and castle short. So black had secured the king. Everything is fine now. You can investigate ways to becoming very tactical and expose the white king on a king side, because yeah, there's a little bit of potential weaknesses for the white king. And taking back now black with the pawn. Let me just very briefly mention that if knight were to take here, that would be bad. Bad. Because again, e4, and if you say, oh, there is a free pawn on c3, it ain't free. It's a trap. The black knight is goodbye. Following queen b3, where you going to go? Knight can't move anywhere. So goodbye. Just wanted to make sure what would happen if. So it's good to clarify for all of our friends. So you don't want to take with the knight, you always want to take with a pawn. Another reason being, the bishop may be able to develop onto e6 at some point. So e3, because you can't push e4 now, black controls it twice, the e4, knight h5. Now, more sharp, and experts recommend nowadays to go, rook e8 or c5, more sharp continuation right now, rather than playing twice the same piece in the opening, so to speak, which is not the end of the world for black, but it is considered nowadays rook e8 more strong, because that's where the white king is, or c5 to try to dismantle those guys as soon as you can with the black pieces. But knight h5 had been played. Queen to c2 on the second rank. We're going to see how important it is to getting the queen there. Of course, there is no bishop f5 happening. Now, attacking h7. There's very many things, because, as you know, guys, every single move means so many consequences in chess. So rook e8 now, finally positioning the rook where the white king is. g4, attacking the knight. Now, knight has only 2 options. You either go f6 or you go f4. And if you inquire now, wait a minute, But h4, I could go with a queen on h4 and attack the king. You kind of can, but it's bad for black to do this. Queen h4, checking the white king, indeed. But after queen f2, what have you achieved? Because if you take an I take, you're going to have to go back with the knight. Oh no, and I took all the possible squares here. Bishop d3, h4, rook b1. Oh no, white is completely super happy and winning. Disaster. So we don't want to do queen h4 here. We don't want to do queen h4, but knight f6 or knight f4 as Bobby Fischer played. Pawn can't take because it's pinned by the rook, attacking the white king. h4 now. And c5, of course, so these are stuff that we need to keep in mind. d8, c5, even before knight h5 being recommended. King to f2 now. King moved away from the e file, therefore the black knight really now needs to vacate the f4. You can't keep him there. You could go e6 or g6, but the best one is g6, because if you go on e6 here, you're sort of taking the square from the line square black bishop. So knight g6, bishop d3. Of course, nothing wrong with bishop d3 here, but again, h5 is actually the best move, the top move here, because that kicks the knight away. They can't move on to h4 because the knight is trapped following king g4. Where does this guy gonna go? The answer is nowhere. Wherever you move the knight, the game is lost. Goodbye. So h5 would have been a more direct attack, aggressive choice for white, for Florin Gheorghiu. He didn't play it though. He played bishop d3, which is not a bad idea because it still hits that knight. And yeah, you might be threatening, if I do this and you move your guy, I'm going to grab this one. Practically winning, right? Yeah, but there is something with tempo that black will be playing here. And I'm talking about the c4. Anyway, as I said, I think at some point, every single game, you might take hours to go into every subtlety and possible branch that could have happened if it happened, this or that. So I'll just try to stay as surgically as I can on the brief skeleton of the game. So bishop d3, battery, enabling and attacking along this beautiful light square diagonal here. And of course, if c4 would have happened now, you just simply take this guy off the board. There's no question about it. Knight c6, knight e2 developing, and bishop e6. Now look at this bishop. So bishop to e6. That's why when knight was forced to go, they had to go g6 so that you keep the e6 for the bishop. g5 now, because we do want to play h5 and we want to take all the possible squares. Rook c8, placing itself on the c file where the white queen is. h5 attacking the knight. Knight goes f8 now, and g6. Florin Gheorghiu was determined to attack in this game, and maybe he was super young, maybe he was an adventurer, maybe he wanted to, play the best game of his life, and probably this is the best game anyway. What a performance. g6, making sure that the black fortress is weakened by this move. Take it on g6 now, and h6. Great stuff. Still a little bit drawish here. It's not clear how you're going to break through unless your opponent makes a blunder, which it did happen, even for the best. Queen to b1 being played. What does that mean in practical terms? Well, it means that if c4, you could play, for instance, bishop c2, because there is no knight on g6 for you to take no more. So if c4, obviously you're saving your bishop with bishop c2, and also queen b1. Might be keeping an eye on the b7 pawn. Knight a5, like Fischer heard the thoughts. Knight a5 being played now. You can't take on b7. Knight to f4, getting with the knight closer to attacking on the black king side. c4, grabbing and pushing the bishop backwards a bit. Rook to c6. And here the plan is to go rook b6. Eventually, knight b3, depriving white of incredibly important squares and vitality here, vital square. So you can't allow that to happen. And in chess, they say it's prophylactic. You try to prevent the bad stuff from happening. And Florin Gheorghiu here played rook to a2 with the aim to go b2 if rook b6 were to happen. So knight to d7 now. Try to redeploy. You can't keep a piece on the back rank, especially if you're being forced to play that defensive move. You gotta redeploy your pieces on active squares. a4 being played, of course, as you can see with the green paint, allowing bishop a3. And incredibly thriving, this bishop would be the most optimistic. And in contrast, guys, it's good to pause it every now and then and look at a position. Look in contrast the super active bishop on a3 and the bishop on e6. The difference in between a very good active bishop and a passive weak bishop, which is the e6 bishop. Not very happy bishop, that is. Whereas the bishop a3, flourishing. Queen to d7 now. A bit of battery, maybe allowing circulation of the black rook on the back rank. Rook to b2 now, establishing strong on the b file. b6 to closing off that weakness once and for all. And rook to b5. And if you ask, what is the thing with rook b5? What do you achieve? Well, as we probably said in the beginning, white really wants to play in this Nimzo-Indian defense. They want to go e3 to e4. And black sort of has to take, because if you don't take his, they're going to take. And upon taking with black, then you're going to go bishop e4 eventually. And this is really, really, really strong if knight takes, pawn takes. So, okay, let's take it step by step. So this is the moment where actually Bobby Fischer blunders. It happens because we're all humans, right? Human mind is fallible. Stress, fatigue, this and that, miscalculation and things. So black could just very nicely play knight b3 here. Could have played. That's the move that's being recommended, the top move here. And this is a very cool move for black. If white were to take, black takes back, queen takes, either queen c7 or queen c8. Double battery. I mean, the battery here attacking c3 and having a battery also on this side. It's absolutely great because now white needs to play defensively, either dropping bishop to b2 to defend c3 or rook c1. So this is a very important moment in the game, but Bobby missed it. He went with the move way weaker that allows white to take initiative. He went knight b7 with the intent to go eventually knight d6, but that allows white to take initiative. This little move, rather than b3, which would have been absolutely great for black, he went knight b7, and you guys notice the evaluation gauge. Because e4, it's that stuff you do want to play in this system with f3. He pushed e4 eventually. Now pawn takes, and bishop takes here, attacking the rook, killing everything on the light squares, and it's just very bad for black. So now rook went backwards. Rook to e5 now, another super cool move. And black is in trouble. Black is in absolute trouble. So they try to tactically creating a mess here by going with bishop to g4. And Florin Gheorghiu played knight to d5 because he wants to make sure that this guy, which is the only active defender of the king, and he wants to make sure that guy disappears on f6. And if you don't take, they want to take and actually dismantle all those little pawns defending the black king. And also, if you inquire, wait a minute, can't I just take on g4? You can take on g4, but allows black a bit of a counterplay. Looking at knight g4, attacking the king, attacking the rook. You have to move the king away now. Where do you move the king? King f1. It could be knight taking here on e5. It's just not that great no more. And then you got to play very precisely bishop d5. Still white's winning, but it's not as... we're going to go back and actually we look into the move. So taking on g4 actually allows black counterplay. That's what I want to say. And of course, taking here, it's even awful. It's worse here because the white king is very much exposed. So for this reason, you weren't supposed to take on g4. Florin Gheorghiu didn't take on g4. You don't want to take on g4 that bishop, but you want to go with the knight a5. That's just great stuff. Now, Again, tactics, you got to get out of this mess. And rook took the white rook. Of course, you play an in-between move. You're not supposed to take back straight away. This is a disaster for white. You play something with tempo, what you said you want to play. And that's a move that can't be denied by black because it's check. So now black has to take, and you take back the rook. And knight tries to knight b7, c5, tries to shut off. There's very dangerous diagonal here. But then again, bishop takes, queen checks. That doesn't mean anything because king goes to g3. And this guy also arm pre. There's no play here for them. Bishop takes f3. No play for black whatsoever. And queen to c1. What does that mean? Queens are being forced off the board. So when you have material advantage, as it happens now, and also positional advantage, but let's just look a little bit. When you have material advantage, you want to simplify the game by trading off the remaining pieces so you could emerge with the extra material. And queen to c1 here forces the black queen off the board. Well, if you go g5, queen's going to take g5. And if you go with a super blunder somewhere, the problem is that white is going to take on h6 and checkmate is coming in a move. You can't stop the checkmate because this pawn takes the f7 away from the black king. So you can't go anywhere. This is just game over. So queen to c1 forces the queens off the board and the rook takes and completely winning here. Let's just continue for the sake of finalizing this gem. King to g7. Trying to do something, I don't know what, but trying to. Bishop defending that g6 pawn. You can't even take it. You can't push this one here because bishop takes. There's nothing black could really win. Rook to d, because the intent is just simply checking, grabbing more if possible. Of course, rook trying to blocking the incoming rook d7 check and fork. Disaster. Now rook goes very nicely on the 5th rank. This guy being attacked now. King tries to defend and goes for another weakness because so many holes and breaches here that Florin Gheorghiu takes advantage of. King g7, the only move for black here. And now rook goes over to c6. This guy also under attack. It's too many isolated and weak pawns ready to being targeted by white. h4, and the rook takes c4. So that guy had been taken. Bishop extra. h3, trying desperately to pretend you're doing something. And king to g3, putting a stop once and for all. There is no way for black to do anything here and to hope for a draw or anything. There is no tacticality whatsoever here. King h6. Bishop to b1. The idea would be we can always go for something like rook h4, check this guy. This guy will be taking, and it's just this check here doesn't work. King goes on h2, check, trying to attack the bishop. Bishop goes to safety. Rook to e3, attacking the bishop and defending the h3. Rook now checks and also attacks h3. King moves away. Pawn goes for queening. Notice that he didn't rush into taking on h3. You're still winning, but he didn't rush into that. You could have, but actually, having a queen is absolutely great. Is coming, and it can't be really stopped. So at this stage now, we can pause the game. And it's totally winning for white. So guys, that was the 1966 Chess Olympiad in Cuba. Florin Gheorghiu, the Romanian Grandmaster and legend, and the one and only Bobby Fischer. And I hope you guys enjoyed this idea. Yeah, think carefully about introducing f3 in your own repertoire if you go with the white against the Nimzo Indian. I hope this game will serve as an beautifully instructive one. And hopefully, guys, I'm going to see you on the live stream or the next chess video. See you, and thank you very much.